Did you ever have one of those teachers that you never can forget? I was pretty fortunate in my lifetime. I've had a few of those teachers, and I wanted to tell you guys a little bit about one of my teachers from when I was really young. When I was a kid, there was I'm First Nations, and that's for my American friends. You refer to us as American Indians. And when I was young, my brother and I, we were the only non-white kids at our school. And so, therefore, we used to get picked on a fair bit. And my brother and I were not shrinking violets by any stretch of the imagination. We didn't have any problems sticking up for ourselves. But it would happen on a pretty regular basis. So eventually, I was in grade 4 and my younger brother was in grade 3. There was a flyer going around at our school, and in it they had a little advert for the local boxing club. And at that time, boxing was a pretty big thing in the 70s. You know, Muhammad Ali was at his prime and making lots of noise like he always did. And so a lot of people were into boxing back then. And when my brother and I saw this ad, we decided, yeah, we should check it out. So we went to check it out, and the guy running the place, he was a big barrel of a man. His name was Denny. I don't want to get his last name because I haven't really talked to his family about that I was going to do this, and he's since passed away about 10 years ago. And so his name was Denny, and he was this big barrel of a man, and I remember he was so into physical fitness. He was one of these guys that could do a push-up where he put his hands way above his head like this, and he could, on his fingertips, do a push-up. And when I was a little kid, man, he seemed like a giant. And anyway, so my brother and I started boxing, and we got really into it quite a bit. And we boxed, and they'd set up some fights, and we started fighting in the local fights. And we were pretty serious about it for a couple years. For me, I then got into golf and hockey more. My brother stayed with the boxing, and he ended up becoming a Canadian national boxing champion. He was very skilled at boxing, and my thing was more into hockey and golf. And anyway, so a couple years after we started boxing, we moved to this school that our boxing coach was actually the principal of the school, and he taught grade 7. He was my grade 7 English teacher. It was pretty incredible. He was a wonderful guy. He had all kinds of time for us kids. In the mornings he'd start out, and we'd come in for basketball practice, and then he'd teach all day, and then at nighttime he'd teach boxing. He was always giving time to kids. And the one thing that really stood out to me when I was in grade 7 in English class is here was this big barrel of a man who loved the sport of boxing. You know, it's a rough and tumble thing, people getting punched in the face and trying not to get punched in the face. But he would also pick up books of poetry, and he'd read those books of poetry, and everything this guy did, he lived that ideal of what that was all about. So when it came to poetry, he said words, and you could see that he was not just reading the story, but he was feeling the story. And for me, you know, having known him from the boxing end of things, and then also seeing this big giant man, I thought he was a giant in grade 7 anyways, reading these stories like that, it was just incredible. And then we left that area and moved to another area where I went to a different school for grade 8 and high school and on. And for years we kind of lost touch. And then one day, one of my schoolmates that was in my grade 7 class, she ended up becoming a teacher. This guy touched people beyond what I can even explain. So many kids that I knew went to school, they became teachers, and you know, he really instilled a lot in a lot of us. Anyway, so when he was dying of cancer, one of my schoolmates gave us a call and said, Denny would really like to see you and your brother, and he's sick, he's got cancer, and he's not going to live for very long. And so, this guy gave so much to so many. It was, it wasn't much of us to give to go and see Denny, seeing as how, he had requested to see me and my brother. And so we went down and saw him, and we spent a couple hours with him and telling stories, and he was telling stories about how much how much we meant to him, and we told him how much he meant to us, and he was really proud of what we had become. And then when we were leaving, one of the proudest things he did in his life was he became an adopted member of a local Indian band, and because of all the stuff that he had given to the community. And one of the things that this Indian band, the way they communicate is when they see somebody that they want to honor, they would make this gesture, and it meant that that you did well. And he did that for me and my brother, and it was and not long after that he passed away. And I'll never forget this guy, because he was one of those teachers that, I'm 47 years old now. It's been 30 years since I started boxing with the guy, and to this day he still affects a lot of the things that I do in my life. He was a great man. I just wanted to share that story.